missionary, and today we're going to be talking about digestion. It's very important that we understand how we digest our food, because how we digest determines what all organs of the body are getting, particularly the brain, which is so important because your brain is like the capital of the whole body. It's the one that gives out directions, it's the one that determines the decisions you make. You know, it's the one that determines your mental alertness in terms of your work, your output. So it's important that you understand how your body digests. Secondly, food is not a part of you until the nutrients are drawn into your bloodstream. There are so many people I know that I've met, as we consult with various people who have different ailments, and part of the main reason why they are not benefiting from the food they are eating. And some of them, I'll say, they're on a plant-based diet already, they're eating healthy, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, but they're not receiving the nutrition they need. It's because they're not absorbing this nutrition into their bloodstream. So it's as if the food just passed through your body, and it doesn't benefit you at all. So it's important for you to know how you digest, so that you ensure that the conditions necessary for you to digest properly are met, and that the food is assimilated and thus drawn into your bloodstream and it benefits you at the end of the day. So I'm going to talk about the right way of digestion in this video, and then on the next we're going to talk about things that disturb proper digestion. So let's talk about, when does digestion begin? So you have your plate of food, it looks good, smells wonderful, there's colors, your mind is stimulated. Already digestion is beginning in your brain. Your mind gets excited, starts releasing those feel-good hormones, and it says, yay, I'm going to be eating something really good. And so once you put the food in your mouth, on a physiological level, that's where the digestion begins. So in your mouth, that's where you digest your starch and your short chain and medium chain fatty acids. So you put the food in the mouth and you start chewing. It's important to understand that in your stomach, there are no teeth. They are all in the mouth. So you need to chew your food thoroughly. So one of the important things to do is be relaxed. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be anxious. Just sit down and give yourself time and relax. And then count. For starters, if you're not used to eating right, you might need to be literal or be deliberate about it. Count and just say, okay, every mouthful, I'll chew it 32 times. And I found often that when you start chewing, you realize that even 32 is not enough. You end up chewing even more. And once you start chewing your food, there are some enzymes that are released by the brain into your mouth, that start breaking down your carbohydrates, and they start breaking down your short chain and your medium chain fatty acids. Once you've broken down the food, please understand the importance of chewing it until it is like chime. They call it chime. It should be mushy like porridge, so that when you swallow it and it goes down to your stomach, the surface area at which the digestive enzymes will need to break down the food is covered. So as soon as you swallow, the food goes down your esophagus and it gets into your stomach. Now your stomach, often we think our stomach is here. These are your intestines. Your stomach is just right here. And when the food goes in, just in between the stomach and the esophagus, there is a ring muscle called the pyloric sphincter. I don't know how to pronounce it so well. These words are so difficult. But anyway, when the food gets into your tummy, this ring muscle is supposed to shut as soon as digestion begins. Because in your stomach, what's happening is you are going to be digesting your protein. Now, proteins can only be broken down in a very acidic environment. Very acidic. And so a lot of people like saying, well, the doctor says I've got too much acid in my stomach. You need that acid, otherwise the proteins will not be broken down. The problem is when the acid goes up. So that's the reason why that ring muscle needs to close shut close, so that the food doesn't go back up and the digestion happens in the tummy as it should. So once that ring muscle closes, and what closes that ring muscle? When saliva. So that's why it's important to masticate your food. interacts with the digestive juices. Particularly, one of the juices secreted is called betaine hydrochloric acid. When it interacts with that, it then creates a chemical reaction that shuts that ring muscle. And when that muscle is now shut, it's a safe environment for your proteins to be broken down. Then this, in your tummy, this process of breaking down proteins will take about 3 to 4 hours. We're talking about a normal way of digestion, right? So in 4 hours, the food is ready to go down. And at the bottom of the tummy, there's another ring muscle that actually opens up for the food to go into your small intestine, the duodenum. And so when that muscle opens, the food moves to the small intestine. This is where the digestion is then finalized. Your starch is digested there. It's the final phase of digestion of starches. And the long chain fatty acids are digested there. And lastly, your proteins are also digested there. This is where the pancreas and the gallbladder will be throwing in the bile acid. The pancreas will be throwing in some additional digestive enzymes. They call them the proteolytic enzymes, that help to break down the proteins. And there'll be additional amylase, and there'll be all of these enzymes work together to break down the food finally, so that it can then, as it moves through your intestines, be drawn into your bloodstream. So once the food is broken down, it then starts moving. And then there are the villi. It's like small little tongues, like straws, that suck the nutrition into the bloodstream. They suck the nutrition, but these villi highly depend on your having sufficient gut flora for them to actually draw the nutrition in. Now, gut flora, you cannot underestimate the importance of gut flora. In fact, with this video, because it's a short video, we can't really get into the details. I'm just giving you an executive summary of digestion. But you need gut flora. It's like, this family that lives in your gut, that's so important. The good gut should always outweigh the bad bacteria. You need both, but you need the good to be more than the bad. Because then the good bacteria, it serves a whole lot of purposes. Like it protects you, it helps with the final digestion of food before it's absorbed, it helps with proper absorption, and it helps, in terms of building a strong immune system. That's what the good gut flora does. And so when you have sufficiency of that, then, your food is then broken down further, it is then drawn into your bloodstream. When you don't have sufficient gut flora, then you don't have the benefit of protection, absorption, final digestion or breaking down of the food so that it is easily drawn into your bloodstream, and much more. Here's another thing that I really want for us to be aware of. You have to be careful of things that will kill your good gut flora. But as I said, we're going to cover that on the next video. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have sufficient gut flora. And where do you get this? They call these probiotics. So you get them from your sourdough bread, sauerkraut, kefir. There's just so many sources of them. We actually even sell, gut flora. It's the two main strains that you actually need. So if you're buying probiotics, make sure that these two strains are there. The first one is Lactobacillus acidophilus, and the second one is Bifidobacterium. So if you've got these two strains, it's believed and it's been found scientifically that all the other strains actually come from these two main strains. And so they then change into the other strains of bacteria, and then they create these many lovely families that are living in your intestines, enabling you to absorb the food. Once all of the vitamins and minerals and all of the nutrients are absorbed into your bloodstream, then the food then, starts eliminating additional liquid, and it starts forming fecal matter. And then if you're eating sufficient fiber, so we're talking about the good way of digestion. If you're eating sufficient fiber, these small molecules start forming around your stool, and it starts creating that bearing down effect. And then the food will now need to come out, because you'll start getting the edge, that edge that says you have to go, and you have to go now. And you run to the toilet, and voila, if you're digesting very well, the amount of time to take to download should be the same amount of time it takes for you to urinate. If you're taking longer, and you have to bring a newspaper with you and sit there and then know that something is wrong. And one of the things that I actually like, I do this a lot, so a lot of people like saying, oh, that's gross, but I do it. I always look down. Once I'm done, I always look, because you need to know your poo. You need to know whether your poo is healthy or not. So always look there. What does healthy poo look like? Number one, it's light brown in color. Number two, you should not see whole food particles. If you're seeing whole food particles, that means you didn't chew your food thoroughly, firstly. And secondly, then that means that even as it goes along, there are some food particles that pass through your digestion, didn't benefit you, like we said earlier on. So we don't want any of that. And secondly, you want your poo to be light and fluffy. So when it gets into the toilet, it should not be like boom. It should boom. I don't know if that helps, but it should just go there and float. It should be banana shaped. If it's banana shaped and it looks like it's got a lot of cracks, that's like a sign of a mild constipation. You might be suffering from dehydration, not drinking enough water. So you're digesting well, but you're not drinking sufficient water. That helps, to make your poo the right consistency. And lastly, it should be a banana shape. It can be long. It could be like, sometimes when we give people our colon soup, it comes out like it's a snake. So, abayaman bati. But it's long and it's like a string, and you want for that to come out really nice and easy. It should just be a quick job, and it should not smell. If it smells, there's a problem. You're not eating right. And so, one of the things we're going to talk about, I think in part 3 of digestion, is we're going to talk about the foods that help your food to be light, fluffy, and should not smell much. And we're going to delve into the detail of what you need to do then. But other than that, I think that's the simplified version of how you digest. I hope I've made it as simple as I possibly can, but it can be very complex. But this will just give you a general picture of what you need to understand about digestion. And on part 2, we're going to talk about things that you do that actually mess up your digestion. So if you felt this information was very helpful to you, please share it with others. They need to know this information because your health is your wealth and you want to take your health to a higher level. I want to end with this scripture. It's a very well-known scripture. I think everybody who teaches on health from a biblical point of view will always be quoting the scripture. It's found in the book of 3 John 2. It says, I pray that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. So without health, that means there's no true prosperity. So this information is vital. Share it with people and like our page so that you'll be able to get more of these videos in future. God bless you and goodbye.